As promised, today I have my interview for you with Rich from ReviewTechUSA. Now, originally this was going to be part of yesterday's video. However, since both videos were so long and since so many of you were interested in this, I figured I'd give you the entire unedited interview with Rich today. This interview was recorded 3 days ago, and as much as I wanted to interview the TheRTUCritic too, because I truly did try my best to keep this as balanced as possible and give him a chance to voice his point of view, he still has not accepted that invitation, so at this point I'm releasing the video with just Rich's interview. Now, the benefit to having a second video is that I can update you on what's happened between yesterday and today. Now, in yesterday's video, I'll include a link to it. I was curious to hear your opinion and asked, is the TheRTUcritic's channel criticism or harassment? And an overwhelming 95% of you said that his channel was harassment. Also, only 4% said it was criticism. I'm not sure where that last 1% went. I guess that 1% is always untouchable. Taking a look at the TheRTUcritic's channel, there is a significant difference from yesterday. Most of his videos are now gone. He has stated that he plans to re-upload them on another channel. Also, in the less than 24 hours since that video was released, other people have come forward and let me know that they've had issues with the TheRTUcritic as well. Most notably MundaneMatt, who is apparently also doxed by the TheRTUcritic. The TheRTUcritic also did make a response video, which unfortunately made his case quite a bit worse. I don't think I have to even say anything about it because I think it speaks for itself. Here you go.
Don't get it twisted. I'm not a victim and never will be. But when people do things like this, they usually end up regretting it. Don't take my word for it. Just ask Rich. Black bonding MundaneMatt. There will be negative repercussions for Rebecca.
There will be negative repercussions for me. Is that a threat? Let's find out.
For legal reasons, I cannot discuss what I'm going to do about it. I really don't appreciate you indirectly telling your followers to flag my channel, but you have proven to everyone you cannot be trusted to give an honest opinion. You barely talked about Rich at all in the video. My videos are on private at the moment to try and protect them from flaggers. However, if my channel gets banned, things will escalate, and you, Rebecca, will be held solely responsible.
Okay, so not only is this creepy, but this is also like saying, hey, I stole a cookie, but since you caught me stealing the cookie, I'm blaming all of this on you. No, you stole the cookie. As the TheRTUcritic said on Twitter, I hold grudges for a long-ass time. This censorship won't be forgotten. It's interesting that somebody who is so opposed to the idea of censorship and who considers himself a critic is so open to trying to censor any criticism of him by threatening people with doxes and saying that they legally can't say what they'll do to them. And if you think this hasn't happened before, it has. You might recall that in that response video I just showed you, the TheRTUcritic mentioned MundaneMatt, who is apparently somebody else who he's doxed, who came forward to me after he saw my video I posted last night.
A Twitter user by the name of ReviewTechUSA, who says, "Hi Matt, you have been fully doxed. Only 2 people know the details of the dox, i.e. real name, addresses, family, businesses, etc. This information won't be released if you comply with our demands. You must make a dedicated video apologizing to the TheBigCheese Crusaders for your involvement in this video," and they're referring to this episode of The Verdict I did with Rich from ReviewTech a couple of months ago. It's on his RLM Corp channel. Like, not many people have fucking seen it, so whatever. And so I'll link to that in the video description. Secondly, they say I must cut all ties with ReviewTechUSA and vow never to work with him again because, I don't know, fucking reasons.
So we have threats, we have blackmail, and he mentioned Matt in this response because of the doxing. And now he's threatening me too, and apparently anyone who's associated with Rich. So even though he's doing this to multiple people, it is still with that singular obsession on Rich. He actually has a video on his channel, which has since been privated or deleted, I'm not sure, where he talks about the doxing of MundaneMatt, and then he actually brought it up again today. So if you ever wanted to know why an issue like this is so important, it's because there's really nothing else we could do to protect ourselves than by sticking together as a community. And the TheRTUcritic is not stopping. He says here on Twitter, I don't care about the hate. I thrive off hate. I have a real problem with being censored, however. I hold grudges for a long-ass time. This censorship won't be forgotten. Funny how she painted Rich as someone who has done no wrong. It's fine. She will regret making this video. Victims get harassed. You and Rich may be victims, but I'm not. I issue my own brand of justice. I like to be anonymous online. I don't want to end up like Rich after he was doxed. Harassment happens to victims. Rich is a victim. I never quit. I always come back stronger and worse than before. She made a mistake and will pay for it. Now, this person that he's adding in this tweet is not exactly as subtle about the threats he makes. I'm in Ireland. You can't catch me. Rich's personal life will be targeted until he quits. I don't care what the fuck you think about me. I want that man dead in a bog. Finally, I want a bare knuckle fight with that fat criminal. If you can set that up, it'll be great. Although I can't promise I won't bring a knife and gut him on the spot. He deserves to be covered in petrol and set alight. I personally want to stab Rich's throat and hang him upside down. And of course, once again, the threat, if and when my channel is censored and removed, I will hold you personally responsible. Now, this is your update on what's been happening, and this is why I'm covering it, because in a situation like this, what can you do? It's very difficult to deal with somebody who is harassing you over the internet when they live in another country. And this is why we need sites like YouTube and Twitter at this point to do something about this. You're going to hear more about the TheBigCheese Crusaders and who this group is in the interview, so without further ado, let's get right into it. How did you meet ReviewTechUSA? What was your first encounter with him like?
Here, it's so weird because his initial thing was, and I sent you the video on it so you could see, was when I had the fallout with TheBigCheese. He's another YouTuber where it was about a computer where it was a $200 business deal that gone sour. There's a video, if you take 3 seconds to look for it, you'll find it. He said that was the thing that set him off. But the weirdest thing about him, even though I found out later he was trolling me under other accounts, even before, I believe, the whole TheBigCheese nonsense, I didn't really hear of him until spring of 2015. And the weirdest thing is right when, at the time he came around, there was a Facebook page called I Hate ReviewTechUSA. And this is before I even knew, because he used to be called ReviewHellUSA ReviewTechUCritic. And I remember asking the guy on there, I was like, dude, just out of curiosity for you to, because I just found it weird, like someone would go and create a page and like put that much effort in. I asked him, or whoever it was, why did you create this page? He's like, because you ignored me and you ignored my emails. And like probably maybe a few days later, maybe a week later, all of a sudden TheRTUCritic comes around. So I'm not saying they're the same person, the person that created that page and the person that who is ReviewHellUSA and TheRTUCritic, but it was an interesting coincidence that they both seemed to pop up at the same time. And he's been, even when I've ignored him, that's everyone's like, don't feed the troll. I don't feed him, I would say 90% of the time now, if not more. He actually gets more aggressive when I ignore him.
So you do think that ReviewHellUSA and the TheRTUCritic are the same person? Absolutely.
I have no doubt in my mind. As a matter of fact, if you look at his newest video where he's talking about Dollar Shave Club, he even uses the same ReviewHellUSA face. It's definitely him. And he's actually mentioned before that he was switching over to TheRTUCritic. So it's definitely him. There's no doubt about it.
So he's admitted that it is him. He was both accounts?
In an indirect way, he's admitted it. But there's just, he said, yes, it is definitely him. He won't come out and directly say it because he doesn't want to be, because he got scared off of ReviewHellUSA. I got his account suspended, and I don't know what the hell else scared him off. I think someone actually put out some of his information, which wasn't me. And I think he got scared off. So he's like, oh, yeah, I'm retiring. I'm done trolling Rich. And then in January, or yeah, it was around January, he came back as TheRTUCritic.
So this has been going on for a while. Between both accounts, how long would you say that your encounters with him have been going on for?
I would say April of 2015. It's been over a year.
Okay. And how would you say that his actions have affected you?
It has, but not as severe as he'd want it to be. He's had Dollar Shave Club get scared off, which if I don't hear back from them, I may make a video on that. I'm trying to be civil about it. And the other one that he's had that got scared off was Hawpog as sponsorships. And what bothered me about Hawpog was that they made it public. And, you know, that's for a different topic for a different video, but that kind of bothered me. I was more so mad at Hawpog than I was at him, because they put it all out there and it made it into a much bigger fiasco than it needed to be. But he is more so beyond that, because most places that work with me are like, yeah, this guy's just a fucking weirdo and we're going to ignore him. He's done personal things. He's put up pictures of my fiance. What he'll do now, though, he's gotten smart, is he makes other sock accounts on Twitter and he'll retweet the pictures from other accounts because he wants to say, I'm not doing it. But under Review Hell USA, I have screen caps and stuff like that where he's put up pictures of my family. He's posted pictures of, I know he's doxed me multiple times. He won't say that he has. He'll always say that you have been doxed. His whole thing is that he tries to be illegal in a legal way. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I remember one time, and I don't have the screen cap of it, which pisses me off. He even put up that he knew my fiance's daughter's fundraiser, and he knew what it was. And he just put it out there to say, look, I know everything about you. I remember he knew I was going on a vacation. He was tracking which road I was on. It was just it's really fucking weird. And it's the personal stuff that concerns me more. Because from ReviewTechUSA's standpoint, I'm sure when he sees this video, he'll put up things saying, oh, I've had a huge impact on him. ReviewTechUSA wise, he hasn't. But it's my personal life that he's gotten into, which is just mind-blowing, to be honest with you. That's the part that kind of weirds me out about him.
Well, right. I saw that one video of his where he showed or tried to show that he knows what gym you go to because he showed how it was across from a graveyard.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. That's another one. And the funniest thing is I do know who he is. All I'm going to say is his name is Jason. I'm not obviously going to give his information out here. The whole thing is that there's a TheBigCheese Crusaders, which they say there's 100 of them. They always blow up their numbers. I would say maybe 5 or 6 of them are still active. They said, oh, Rich, you keep on saying it's Jason, but he retired a long time ago. And I got people sent me information. I've never personally doxed him. I've never paid to get him doxed, even though he goes around saying that, which leads into the whole shadows government thing. But the guy, Jason, everyone said he's quit. He called the gym himself, and I guess he must have tried to use some voice cover-up software. Someone put it through some kind of audio editing. And the voice, you go to Jason's YouTube channel, which I'm not going to mention here either, and you match up the voice of how they got rid of the filters he put on. It was him. So all of a sudden, I have all this information, and on top of it, he's actually calling my gym to to say there was some kind of medical emergency. So yeah, he does whenever he can. He tries to come into my personal life. Which, look, like I said, even if he had a critic channel where he was making up shit, fine, you can make up whatever you like to a degree, unless it's something really like you're saying that I'm like, God forbid, a pedophile or something like that. You could do whatever the fuck you want. But it's that he goes beyond that, and no one sees that because everyone says, Rich, just ignore him. But it's well beyond YouTube that he goes.
So do you think his videos are criticism or harassment?
Some I would say are criticism. Some I would say are straight up. Well, for perfect example, as one is harassment, he said that I am a Islam extremist sympathizer, and I am pro-homophobia. I think you've seen that video, which is bullshit. A lot of times what he said, I would say most of it's harassment because what he says is flat out not true. Or he takes like little granules of truth and twist it in a totally different direction than it actually is, which I'm sure you saw.
Yeah, so see, I find it interesting because when you try to delineate where the line is between criticism and harassment, you could say that his points of views on you regarding feminism, for example, things that he's mentioned to your sponsors, that could be one person's opinion. But maybe where the harassment is, where he's crossing that line, is when he actually starts reaching out into your personal life, your fiance, your daughter, calling your gym, fishing for information. Where would you say that line is where he's crossing into harassment?
Is obviously where he's going into my personal life. And two, if you're saying things on your whatever it be Twitter or YouTube where it's either flat out not true or you're trying to make me where I said one thing and you're taking what I said and twisting it into totally something different, which I'm sure you've seen things like that he has done.
Yeah, how many accounts do you think he has used, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube?
He has dozens. He has
dozens.
Yeah, and I know things like he's done, even though this one I can't prove because I want to be completely transparent. Like he'll put up like a change.org petition, and I'm sure he makes multiple accounts to make the petition seem like it has more weight to it. I know what he does on Twitter because he's admitted it, is that he has sock accounts. So because I have him blocked on there, so he could spam his videos to all of my Twitter followers, which I always find ironic that he says I'm scared of him on there when I've invited him to do a live debate with me numerous times and he won't do it. He always conveniently seems to not mention that, or he tries to twist it into some way that I'm afraid of him.
Yeah, which was interesting because I invited him to come on and be part of this video too, as part of an interview or a debate, so that he could represent his point of view. And I actually expected that he would accept and you would deny, since he's a smaller channel and you're a larger channel. That's typically how it tends to go. Yet he said he didn't want to come on, and I found that pretty interesting.
Because he knows that virtually everything that he says is full of shit, and the few things that aren't, he twists out of proportion. And he knows that in a live debate, I would bury him. It also, I'm sure, has to do with the fact that since he seems like a horrible piece of shit online and it gets out that even though I'm pretty much over 99% positive I know who he is, he doesn't want it confirmed because I'm sure if anyone in his real life finds out what he's doing, he'll be destroyed. Because what he's doing, he doesn't just even do it to me, he does it to other people too. He's a fucking horrible person. So I'm sure it's a mixture of, yeah, he's a coward, and two, he just doesn't want to be, quote unquote, I hate this word, exposed. And he does it because I'm sure that I know he goes to college. I know he has a kid. And I don't think that he wants that out there because he would ruin his own life with all the crap that he's doing.
What do you think about the fact that he'll criticize you on your opinion, on your appearance, on your changing opinions, but yet he won't show his face or his voice?
He's a coward. And I'm sure it's also a form of, I'm going to sound like Dr. Phil for a second. It's also a form of psychosis because he's in it. I believe it's also that he's in a fantasy world where he feels a sense of empowerment and he doesn't want to break through and go into the fourth wall. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's pathetic. If you truly, like, if I have an issue with somebody, which I'm sure you've seen on my YouTube channel, I have no problem either talking in front of gameplay or going in front of the camera and saying it. He just hides behind an anonymous voice, puts up a picture now of women. At least he used to put up my face with horns on it. I don't know if you've ever seen the
I did see that. That was his Review Hell USA persona, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was his Review Hell USA, which, it wasn't him, but he's using those images on his new channel.
Right, I saw.
It's if you if you had that much dirt, if I didn't like somebody and I had true, genuine dirt on them, and they invited me to debate them, I would be like, please, let's go right now. I'll stop whatever I'm doing and talk to you on Skype or whatever. To me, it's like anyone who doesn't see that he's full of shit because he won't come out and expose me. I mean, you're the wool's over your eyes, and you just simply don't like me for the sake of not liking me.
So then let's dive into some of the criticism that he's had. And I'm curious to see if you think that any of his criticism has been valid. One of the things that he's mentioned was your involvement with Shadow's government. Can you talk a little bit about what that situation was and why you agree or disagree with his criticism?
Shadow's government, and there was psychiatrist. I don't know if he was a psychiatrist, therapist, I should say, because I know there's different tiers. And they have named Dr. Mike Nuccitelli. They came up to me after he found out about what was going on with at the time Review Hell. Which is another thing. He constantly brings up this whole thing with Shadow's government and Michael Nuccitelli, but that was back in the Review Hell days. So it's another tie he has to Review Hell. I mean, if you don't see, for anyone watching this, if you don't see the correlation. Now, not to go into detail in terms of, because I don't really know them from Adam. There was things out there about Dr. Michael Nuccitelli. There was some guy who was trying to slander him, say that he was a criminal. There was actually an investigation into Dr. Michael Nuccitelli, and he was clear to that. He still is a practicing therapist. And Shadow, there was shit that, he has, there was shit that happened to him in the past, but that had nothing to do with me. I actually found out about his issues after I broke ties with them. I broke ties with them for things that happened behind the scenes that had nothing to do with anything that RTUCritic Jason did or any of the Crusaders did. There was things with phone calls that I'm not going to mention because I don't want a slander case to come against me, that I was just like, yeah, this is just kind of weird. I'm good. But he uses, and that's the thing he uses when he goes after, when he goes after like sponsorships, and apparently it works, Dollar Shave Club, where he says, I was affiliated with criminals. What? Okay, the guy next door to me could be dealing crack. Doesn't mean I'm a crack dealer. Okay, great. So, people, or if I work with someone who used to be on parole, but they're no longer on parole. Okay, they did something. What does that have to do with me? You get what I'm saying? But he tries to make it like I was affiliated in a crime ring with them when all they were trying to do was to help me out with the issue of him being a dickhead.
So from a high level look at that situation, from my understanding of it, because it was a little hard to gather all of it from his videos, but it seemed like it seemed like you were in a partnership with Shadow's government. And
yes, I had a video. What it was, and I could talk, was they wanted me to see, like, Shadow said, make it seem like we're your sponsors, but they never got money for going after anybody. They never got, as a matter of fact, I gave Shadow once, he's like, hey man, for the help, you think you could, toss me a little bit of money? And I'm like, all right. So he had like something where you could do like a monthly subscription. I didn't do the monthly subscription. I gave him like $20 once. I'm like, when people come out and ask you for money, it just seems sketchy to me. And someone else that I'm not going to mention that was part of them was like, hey man, just throw me $10 so I could buy a pack of smokes. And I'm like, what? Like, why? You're supposed to be like this accomplished person. You're asking me for money for cigarettes? Like, it was stuff like that I was like, you know what, man, I'm good. Like, that was part of the straw that broke the camel's back with them. It wasn't stuff that happened, due to the Crusaders, quote unquote, or due to Review Hell. It was things that happened behind the scene. And like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want them to say, oh, you're slandering me. No, I'm good.
Sure. So you presented them as a sponsorship then, saying that they had sponsored you, but they did not pay you money to sponsor you.
Nope.
You gave them a token amount of money.
$20. A token would be an overstatement. It was like $30 at most.
So what was the benefit for you out of the arrangement of working with them?
They would have basically tried to keep, the harassment at bay. And that was another thing too, is that wasn't working. So I'm like, I didn't feel comfortable with them. Again, I'm not going to go into detail. It was things behind the scenes, and it wasn't working. So I'm like, what am I doing here? So I just kind of said, look, there was actually something that I won't say who it was, but one of them on Twitter said, hey, I'll offer $200 for someone to find Review Hell USA's information. And I saw that, and I was like, no, man, that was like really it. That was when I wrote in a G+ group that they were involved in, that I was like, no, I'm out. Someone said that I'm not here to start drama at that level, and I'm good. And that was when that was the fun straw that broke the camel's back.
Gotcha. Now, RTUCritic has also leveled some other criticisms against you, various things like saying that you change your opinions from one video to another, sometimes depending on whether you're paid to promote the product or not, like with Final Fantasy, or that sometimes you misinform people in your videos. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Final Fantasy thing, well, no, it was funny. He was trying to say I was hiding that I was sponsored from them, even though I had in the top or the second line down in my comments in the description, I had it was sponsored, and I had the top comment that it was sponsored, and I said that Square Enix came to me. Now, I never got. I think he did actually say he went to the FTC for that. Nothing ever came of it because I was transparent enough. Now that's why people actually get annoyed at me, where they're like, "You're like, shut up, Rich. Great, you know, you bought the product yourself or whatever." I make sure I'm completely transparent with that. Secondly, I change my opinion because circumstances in the industry change. You know, I always use this. I used this as an analogy one time. Like if the weather on this Friday coming is supposed to be rain, but then when I go outside and it's sunny, I'm not going to bring an umbrella just because on this past Sunday it said it was going to be rainy. Like, oh, I'm going to stick to it because that's what I originally heard. No, especially in the gaming industry, stuff's constantly fluctuating. So if things change, like my opinion on Codename N Extra, the Nintendo is changing somewhat. I've heard some positive things. I'm going to look at it differently. You know, you can't go by information from a year ago when a year later the information has changed, you know?
So you would say it's valid criticism, but just weak criticism.
It's weak, yes, because it's, you know, if no one ever changed their opinion on anything, then that's you not being objective. That's just you being, you know, it's like kind of being a fan of a sports team. Even if they're losing, you'll pretend that they're winning because you're a fan of them, and that to me is stupid.
So I think then the last big question is, aside from going into issues with your personal life, one of the biggest ways that I've seen ReviewTechUSA try to come after you is in terms of your sponsorships. And how many sponsorships has he cost you total?
2.
And that would be Hop Hog and Dollar Shave Club?
Mm-hmm.
And would you be willing to put a dollar value to how much that cost you?
Have no idea. Have no idea. It could be $2,000. It could have been tens of thousands.
And how do you think these companies handled it when they received this criticism about you?
Horribly. You're judging. First off, he proved in his video, I don't know if you watched the Dollar Shave Club, he basically sent one email and they responded back, said, yeah, we'll drop them. They actually responded back. Instead of saying maybe this is a troll, maybe I shouldn't put it out there and just go to Rich and not go respond back, they responded back and said, yeah, we'll drop them. Like, who does that? You keep that stuff behind the scenes. So it was horrible. And same, like Hop Hog got DDoSed by somebody. I don't know if it was actually part of what he was doing. It could have actually been him himself. He'll never admit to it. But they got DDoS, so they panicked and they put it out there too. So they put it public on their page. It wasn't even an email. So they handled it terribly. What these companies have to realize is, and I think they almost don't care because they don't see YouTubers as true content creators, is they like, oh, I really don't give a shit anyway. So I don't care if I throw them under the bus. If it was a couple bucks, great. I don't want to take the risk. I'll throw them under the bus to save my own face. But that's guilty until proven innocent. I have no criminal record. I don't even have a speeding ticket on my record. I have no points on my license. Like, you're going to go by one email to judge me as a person and judge my YouTube channel?
It's all fair points. Do you think that his channel is against YouTube's terms of service when it comes to harassment and bullying?
Absolutely, because like I said, a lot of things he says in there are straight up lies. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rich. I really appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on.